those of you joining us for the first time, the goal of the Nest is to connect international investors with frontier market entrepreneurs pitching exciting startups. Today, we have, not only because we're in Cape Town, but because we have investors who are interested in that investment thesis, we have South African companies going global. South Africa has some amazing startups, and many of whom can go overseas to the US and European markets, as well as the rest of Africa. So is that an investment thesis worth investing in? Well, I guess it depends on the entrepreneur, so the pressure's on Greg, pressure's on Nithen. So today, we have great partners hosting the event with us. We have Invest Africa. Elizabeth from Invest Africa, please say hi. We also have Endeavor, who has partnered with us on making this a successful in-country showcase. We have Alison Collier from Endeavor joining us here in the room. And we have Workshop 17, where we are. You can't see us online, but we have a beautiful view of Table Mountain here with a beautiful view of the harbor. So without further ado, let's go over to introduce the angels for today.
So my name is Farhad Massoudi. I'm an entrepreneur from Silicon Valley, although recently moved to Los Angeles. I started a company called Tubi about a decade ago, which has grown to become the largest free and ad-supported movie streaming service in the United States. We recently sold, about a year ago, we sold a company to Fox for $500 million.
And aside from the money, he's being very modest because every single millennial in the United States watches Tubi TV.
Okay. Thank you. Well, we have about 40 million monthly active users in the United States. So.
Congratulations.
I'm Catherine Young. I'm the managing partner of Grindstone Ventures. It's a female-led fund out of South Africa. And we've got a portfolio of about 70 companies now through Grindstone as an accelerator, and we actively invest and very happy to be here. It's so awesome to have you in our country. So.
Thank you for bringing me back. And we have Daniel Kleinbaum.
My name's Dan Kleinbaum, currently based in Maputo, Mozambique. About 7 years ago, founded a company called Bionic. We connected businesses to mobile money networks. We started in Uganda, expanded it to about 7 markets across sub-Saharan Africa, scaled the team to about 20 people, and it was acquired by MFS Africa last year. So, started company through exit to acquisition. I'm envious of the folks that have built really big businesses too in the US, and it's good to be up on stage.
And congratulations on the exit.
Thank you.
And also being part of the African fintech ecosystem, which is an exciting space to be in.
It is.
I'm glad you could make it to Cape Town as well. All right, without further ado, let me pass on the mic to our first presenter, who is Nithen Naidoo from Snode Tech, South Africa.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nithen Naidoo. I'm the CEO and founder of Snode. We live in this connected world, right? Where my shoes connects to my watch, connects to my phone. Everything connects to the internet, and we all connect to each other, right? Securing this heterogeneous architecture at internet scale is a challenge. You can't install your antivirus right on your smart TV. And what makes it worse is that signature-based detection, it may have worked in the 80s when you were trying to track hackers who were kids in the bedroom. Today, you've got organized crime. You've got nation-state attacks. So more innovation within the cybersecurity space was needed. This is why we created Snode. Snode essentially does 3 things. Data fusion. We can take data from inside or outside your organization, be it the deep web, the dark web, and we create one single source of truth. We then give you a single pane of glass so that you can seamlessly navigate through this data at a click of a button. Second thing is we use machine-assisted analytics. Machine-assisted analytics essentially is going to crunch through the petabytes of data and tell you in real time the 1 or 2 things you need to respond. And lastly is automated response systems. So the same machines go out and they contain that threat. They make it harmless, giving you time to remediate and to respond appropriately. Let me give you an idea. So this is a client in SA, in the mining sector, ran our technology for 5 days, and the numbers you see on screen, as big as they are the number of attacks that we defended them against. This is with the existing security controls in place. And unbelievably, this is not even my numbers. This comes from a professional services firm, one of the big four audit firms, because they use our technology to perform IT security assessments in the EMEA region. It's this kind of success that has taken us 6 continents, over 80 client environments, monitoring more than 5 million devices. So unknowingly, some of the world's largest minds run Snode. One of the largest online platforms in the world runs Snode. Largest IoT agri-tech, we were just discussing it now, foundation in the world runs Snode. Largest MVNO in South Africa, JSC's top 20 runs Snode. But that's not where it stops. In 2016, I wanted to show the power of this analytical capability. So I took Snode and I pointed it at social media data around the fees must fall movement. Wanted to predict when a group of students would turn violent. And knowing at any time that there was a violent outbreak, we found that the concentration of students was really low. And instead of telling you when a bunch of students would turn violent, we mistakenly right, so we don't have any direct competitors. I don't think it's fair to the guys on the screen to say we're direct competitors. But most clients compare us to the likes of Darktrace because we don't use signature-based detection. Rather, we use machine-assisted analytics. Also, a lot of Palo Alto, right? Because of the active defense component. Where I find we're most aligned is probably something like Polenta, because we exceed the bounds of cybersecurity and we can use technology to track terrorists, identify patient zero in a disease outbreak, or like help trafficking. We're led by a team of award-winning entrepreneurs and inventors, and we have about 50 people. Most recently, we won the most recent award we've got is from Enterprise Singapore Slingshot competition, where we're one of the top 100 deep tech firms in the world. My ask today is quite simple. We're an unprofitable company. I'm not really looking for, but what I'm looking for is access to international markets. So I'm looking for a partner who can help me scale in an international market, who has channel distribution, existing client base, and that can help me leverage that. And for that, I'm willing to exchange value. Yeah.
So over to the angels. Let's hear your questions and comments.
I have a question. So can you tell me a little bit more about the technology you've built? I wasn't super clear exactly what's the core of the technology you built. So you tap into a stream of data and you use machine learning to detect patterns. Is that a?
Yeah, actually use mathematics. Problem with machine learning is, especially with like supervised learning, it takes time. You need to explain to it what's normal for it to detect an anomaly. We find mathematics is faster, so it works straight out of the box. It doesn't take that time to actually learn anything. And then we can detect anything. We detect, if you give me transactional data, I'll detect fraud. If you give me like HR data, I'll find a ghost employee. But traditionally today, most of our clients use it to detect attacks within their networks. If you'd like, I can talk a little bit more about mathematics in detail. But
I think that would be helpful given that that's
sure,
your
no
product.
Problem. Sure, no problem. So let's just say it's basically quantitative. It's basically, there's 2 core components, right? Velocity and the actual throughput. And what we do, I'm just going to give you an example layout. Are you familiar with like mathematical, like Sherwood control charts, or would that be too technical?
Control charts.
So like peak detection, right?
Sure.
So guys, none of this is rocket science, right? We do simple peak detection, right? It's called a Sherwood control chart. And then what we do is the same algorithm you use on like MP3 to denoise them. It's called fast Fourier transforms. We use that then to sort of denoise the signal. And then, of course, you come in the morning at 9 a.m., right? You're going to answer all your emails, but so is everybody else. So, sorry, I thought. So is everybody else. So what we do is we use this thing called, and that's it's seasonality. Apologies. It's used for seasonality, and we then use like Markov chains and, for example, IP coming from a known threat actor, and is it a known like attack that I can? Is it potentially exfiltrated to like another nation state which your business doesn't communicate with normally, like Russia or China? Not that I'm bad mouthing Russia or China, but those kind of things weigh into the decision-making process, And then based on that, we tell you, well, hey, look, this is either anomalous and should be investigated. Or, does that answer the question?
Thank you. That's very helpful.
One of the questions to add to that, right? We're not the first people to do this kind of frequency and volumetric analysis, right? It's from fraud detection. So I think one of the important points is how are we different from the other people who do
Right.
it? Superior threat detection. I genuinely believe this technology will detect threats that other people will miss. And we've proven it time and time again. You must remember, when I go into a client, right, the client's got the choice of going with IBM's technology or Cisco's technology or, Darktrace or Palo Alto. So you've got to ask yourself the question, how did we win those clients? And my message to the clients is, don't take it on the name basis. Don't take it on marketing. Try it. Put it side by side and try it next to each other. And I think the big difference between our technology is it wasn't born in a lab. Some professor didn't come up with it at some university kind of thing. We actually been using this technology from 2012 within like the consulting space. It was built on the battlefield. That's why it's not done the way it's, other people do it, but that's also why the results are distinctively better and different.
Thank you.
Okay, I have two questions.
Sure.
First question, can you give us a clear idea of what the typical customer client is that you are talking about? So you're talking about access to markets and really wanting somebody to give you market access. So explain that typical client to us. And then the second question, I'd love to know exactly how you make your money.
Okay, so typical client is large corporate because it's unfortunately we haven't figured out a way to lighten it so that we can come in at a price point that's attractive to a small medium enterprise. We're looking at the large corporates largely because of the price point, but also because of the maturity, right? And the regulatory requirements, etc. So the technology itself is quite feature rich. So it talks to regulatory requirements. As a matter of fact, it talks to like international standards, etc. And that appeals to the corporate user. It's a software as a service model, and B2B, and we largely go through channel partners, and it's cloud based. So we charge annual reoccurring, we charge monthly reoccurring revenue, rather, sorry. And the contracts are anywhere between 2 and 5 years on a client. What we find is large global clients tend to go with 5 years at a better price. And, the smaller national footprints tend to go for 2 years. Does that answer the question completely?
Thank you.
Perfect.
This increase in better.
Yeah.
Okay. The increase in revenue, I think it was 1.2 in 2023 to 6 million in 2022. How many additional customers is that you're onboarding this year and next year to hit those revenue targets?
Sure. So it's different because every client's network is different, right? If you look at a mine, there's complexities like SCADA technology and OT technology. So clients vary, but total deal value for an average corporate client will be somewhere in the region of 5 million rand. So like $400,000 US. For a smaller client, you're looking at, maybe total deal value of 3, where they're paying about 1.2 million rand monthly recurring revenue. So that's just under 100,000.
What do the sales cycles look like to sign the existing customers that you have? How long? How complicated? How much time? And who's running it?
You know what? I'll be totally transparent. It's very long, and that's largely because it's tough to sell, a homegrown local startup product when your competition is Cisco. People on the board, they've heard names like Deloitte, PwC, Cisco, IBM, but when you buy Snode, and from Pretoria, and cybersecurity is such a burning issue at a board level, right? So it's questionable. So sales cycles are typically anywhere, if we're lucky, from 6 months to 12 months. And the actual sales process can be complicated. So we do proof of value assessments so that they can take a look at what the current value is and how much value we add. And then we go into not really tough negotiation cycles, because our technology is very cost efficient right now. I have to be if I want to get market share. But also, I mean, we own the entire technology stack, so we don't buy any product from outside. So other than the hardware, which is taken from outside, the entire software ecosystem is built entirely by Snode, right down to the operating system.
So there are a couple of related questions from the audience. Dan Block, how much customization is required per customer, per market, per sector versus entirely plug and play? Thanks, Dan, for the question.
Dan, that's a good question. Okay, so the super interesting on network data, what we look at is we don't do deep packet inspection, which is one of the features of Snode. It can look inside encrypt. We can detect attacks inside encrypted ciphered streams, right? Because what we do is we look at the metadata around the packet. That data is all structured. So it doesn't require much cleaning, etc. But it also in order to secure your applications. So we don't actually, it's the platform, it's cloud-based, but it's not a privacy issue because I'm only taking the metadata from your packets.
What's your mission?
My mission is to defend the future. And when I think about the future, I don't just think about there's many permutations to that. Number one is defend the future. We want to give your business the ability to embrace technology rather than be scared of it, right? Because technology is an enabler. So all the people who are telling you can't do this, you can't do that for security, we want to go the opposite direction. Alternative analysis. No, do it. We'll figure out the security. So that's the one part of defending the future. Second part of defending the future is, while that may be the way we make our money, what I want to use the platform for is solving social evils across Africa, like human trafficking, crime. And that's why the platform was used in 2016 to try and predict crime. A platform like this can defend democracies. It can protect elections. It can defend national infrastructure. It's fast, it's easy to deploy, and it comes with a secure pipeline. So when I also say defend the future, I also mean defending the next generation of not just Africans, like the global community.
What's our process? Can I offer some commentary? Or?
Yeah, please. That's your feedback from all the angels. And also, are you interested in investing, or not investing, but passing on the word and helping this company find customers in the US or beyond?
Well, so first of all, congratulations. As an entrepreneur, I know how hard it is, and for the first 8 years of my past decade, everybody told me I'm crazy. So I have so much respect for people who are fighting every day. I think, so take my commentary with a grain of salt. I want to be helpful. So I think that my understanding is that the technology you have isn't super unique, the IP you have, and I think that's probably a little bit challenging. Also, the process you described isn't super scalable, the consulting and getting clients. So that might be a slower sales cycle. So I suspect those are going to be your challenges entering the global market, especially the US market. I don't know security market that well, but hidden Markov chain and the Fourier transform isn't, cutting edge. So I imagine there will be other players in the US doing that and more. So that's my 2 cents. And I'm happy to be helpful however I can.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I think from an access to markets point of view, I really truly get what you're saying. 6 to 12-month sales cycle at. I have one more question and then I'll finish. Sure. The client split, how many of those are South African companies versus global? So do you have South African incorporated mines with global operations? What's your split, South African versus?
It's around about 60-40.
60
yeah,
being...
so some of that footprint is South African companies, yeah, which have global footprints.
Yeah.
And it's largely because we launched in South Africa. That was where we got a large part of our market. Now 40% is actually coming out of places like the Ukraine, Philippines, etc. And these, again, it appeals to the early adopters. So these are fintech players, agri-tech players who are looking for, a more, I don't want to use the word cutting edge, cyber defense system. Yeah.
helpful. So at the risk of repeating anything that you've said, definitely I fully agree. You'll have to really figure out the consulting versus the SaaS part, because the consulting definitely is just taking so much resource. And my recommendation would really be simplify your pitch, especially if you're going in at the CEO level. They may not necessarily exactly understand the value. So start with the value first for the organization. That would be my advice, but definitely join Grindstone so we can help you access the market. So
I mean, interesting business. The fact that you're running profitability with a team of 15 means you've accomplished something, pretty good. And it gives you some flexibility to figure out how to shift from, 50% consulting up to, probably 80% sort of recurring revenue on the product side. That seems like the challenge, and trying to figure out how to get into the hands. And for me, the tech, most of that was lost on me. I think that, Farhad's got a good handle on sort of the tech that, but at least more than I do. So, I'm more interested in sort of what is the sales cycle look like. Me personally, I come from the financial services background, and trying to figure out how to solve these problems. And, for banks and folks that are starting to see an increase in, attacks and that threat, I'd be curious to know what kind of, traction we could get with some of those conversations. The need to ask, as well as some folks who do network security in the US. I'm happy to help how I can. And it's interesting to see the business. It's a little bit out of my wheelhouse as far as subject matter though. Yeah, but congrats.
Thank you.
And I encourage those in the audience on Zoom to get in contact, get in touch. Please put your information into the chat box, and we'll make sure we get that over to the team so that you can follow up with future references. Thank you very much for the pitch. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And go ahead, and Zach. Oh yes, I'm so sorry. Yes, of course. Why don't we take a couple of questions from the audience as well?
Fantastic.
Forgot there's an audience. I'm so used to the Zoom thing. It's just, who are these people? Why are they here?
Won't be able to see. We all know you.
Just a couple of quick things. It was interesting that you mentioned Palantir as not a competitor, but in a similar industry, but they probably were where you were 8 years ago. Why have you not targeted defense departments of Southern African countries? I mean, someone like a CSIR or a Denel is an obvious choice. Why have you not gone the government route? Is it an economics thing? That's number one. Number two, it seems like you're solving a problem which it's important, but it's purely diagnostic. What do organizations do with this information? It's sort of like, here are your threats, but give me the antivirus. So are you doing part two as well, or are you just providing diagnostic services? Because you could charge a lot more if you come with a solution as well as just here are your threats. Those two.
Yeah, so me and you are in the exact same mind space. I'm going to start with the second part of that question. So we realized that was part of the problem. With this increased visibility, people didn't know what to do with that amount of intelligence. So what we've created a platform called Panthera, which actually automates the defense. What it does is it automatically uses machines to mitigate threats and to put countermeasures in place. In the Navy, like in the military, they call it persistent engagement, and it's a persistent engagement platform. It is not a unique approach. Darktrace has their flavor of it. It's called Antigena, but it most definitely answers that question. So that helps the client actually cope. Otherwise, it's cognitive overload, right? Because the velocity of issues are coming to you so fast, and there's a skills shortage. Exactly. So that technology actually solves that problem. But you're 100%, you hit the nail on the head there. On the first part of your question, which was why not Denel, CSIR? So yeah, we do engage with them. So like today we do a little bit of work for some of the SIUs, and we are trying to sell in there. But if the sales cycle for like a mine is 12 months, the sales cycle for defense is a lot longer. But I also can't tell you too much about the work we do in defense, but like some of the defense agencies in South Africa already run our technology. Yeah. Cool. Okay, so the question is whether we do real-time analysis. Yeah, this is all real-time analysis. So we can consume data at internet scale, be it voice, video, and we can find the patterns in that data in real time. And the machines also respond. Well, and close. When I say real time, I don't mean on the second, but close to real time. And the machines respond close to real time. So if if you're seeing a cyber attack coming at you, like 5 minutes after the fact is way too late. The machines respond within a matter of split seconds.
Thank you very much for the great presentation, Nithen, and congratulations on the traction that you've had so far. And I do hope people in the audience and also some of the folks here, myself included, can help you connect with additional customers in the US. Thank you.